Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. I've had a very long and contentious week and a half of reading. So this Weekly Reads covers not only this reading week, but most of the previous reading week. For the first 16 days of January, I have been reading Fairy Tale by Hiro Mishima, and I finished it early last reading week, and I decided to just devote that whole equivalent of weekly reads to fairy tale. So this week and most of last week has been my post fairy tale TBR. During this week, I touched on some reading for Historathon, as well as starting the first book of my 10 Contemporary Classics I Must Redeem project, and my 12 TBR. I had goes at 2 of those books, and I've decided to double up those 2 and maybe even the 10 if the situation warrants it. So I started with Papyrus by Irene Vallejo, translated by Charlotte Whittle. This is a history of the book. Now, the thing is, this is not a linear history of the book. Vallejo goes on many digressions and jumps from the Ptolemaic Alexandria and the Roman Empire to contemporary Spain and Oxford and all points in between and before. This book was amazing. I loved it. But while I was reading Papyrus, I had issues. It wasn't a meltdown per se, but I was definitely feeling down. And while reading Papyrus did bring me joy during this period, it also wasn't quite enough, and I had to set it aside. So I'll be setting this aside and I will come back to it. So I did Papyrus Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Thursday, that last week I'm talking about, and my brother came over, and that kind of, ruined my reading schedule too. But anyway, so then on Friday I started The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. This was for my 10 Contemporary Classics I Must Redeem. This is the story of Sam Clay and Joseph Kavalier, 2 Jewish boys in New York, one a native New Yorker, the other a refugee from Nazi-occupied Prague, who set out to take over the comic book industry during the Golden Age. They create the superhero called The Escapist and see some success. I first read the book shortly after it came out in paperback in 2001 or very early 2002. And I remember liking it up until the point where Sam, who is gay, decides to marry his cousin Joseph's girlfriend to not only allow himself to remain in the closet, but also so that her son would not be a bastard. And that, while historically accurate, for a baby gay like me, it didn't sit well. And it's been 20 years since I read it. And I thought it would be a great time. I've been wanting to reread or have another go at this book for a while. and I'd picked it up with the mind to do it, but Steve Donahue putting it in his 10 contemporary classics you must read, and me having bailed on it, pretty much put it on. I'm going to give it a bail redeem for the 10 contemporary classics I must bail redeem. Unfortunately, this is a bail redemption rejection. I did not get into this book at all. Now, I had hoped part of it would have been the after effects of whatever plagued me last week, because I was still feeling it on that Friday. I came out of it on Saturday, but I had another go at it today, and no, just no. So this is a bail redemption rejection, and I'm rather upset about that. It just, I don't know it. I don't know if it's what it is. If I'm just a lot harsher with fiction nowadays, or because I know I was a lot kinder to fiction when I was younger, particularly literary fiction, because there's a whole number of writers and books that I read and really enjoyed then that coming back to them now I'm not as fond of. So yeah, it is a bit disappointing, but it is what it is. So on Saturday, I started one of the two books I had set up for this month for the 12 TBR, Witchmark by C.L. Polk. This is a fantasy set in an Edwardian-styled fantasy world that was significantly more progressive in some ways than Edwardian England or Britain was. So in this world, magic is real, and those with magic who aren't the elite, who secretly have magic and who run everything, are condemned to act as living power batteries. The main character, who is from a noble background, works at a hospital catering to war wounded, when a man who's been killed by magic or knowing of the truth comes to his hospital. And I hated this book. Just the writing was terrible, just absolutely terrible. And that's all I can say about it. So then, after I gave some space to Witchmark, I started on the other book I had for my 12 TBR, The 7 Moons of Maali Almeida by Shehan Karunatilaka. This won last year's Booker Prize, and I loved it. Yay! This is a novel set in Sri Lanka in 1990. It's about a war photographer named Maali Almeida, who is on his mother's side part Burgher and part Tamil, and on his father's side Sinhalese, who is murdered at the beginning of the book. And his ghost has 7 days to settle his affairs and enter into the cycle of rebirth. During this time, he not only tries to figure out who killed him, who murdered him, but also trying to get in contact with his survivors, his boyfriend, and his boyfriend's cousin, who has acted as Maali's beard, to sort of release some photographs that he's made that he believes will bring down the government and bring down numerous powerful people. And so this sort of sets up a dual storyline of the saga of the photographs, as well as Almeida's adventures in the in-between space before he goes to his sort of where he needs to go in the afterlife. And in the sort of in-between period, there's a brewing sort of the carryover of what had gone on in the living world that's sort of turning some people into demons. Namely, a young man named Cinna. He's started working with a demon. So anyway, I love this book. It was amazing. I like the characters, particularly Dee Dee, Maali's boyfriend. Also Jackie, the beard, she's pretty cool. Dr. Rennie, who serves as Almeida's helper to the afterlife in the in-between period. She's amazing, absolutely amazing. Even Cinna, who's a bit of a villain, is really well drawn. I really enjoyed this book. It was amazing, just absolutely amazing. So thrilled to have read it. So I read The 7 Moons of Maali Almeida Saturday and Sunday, and that left me Monday to start one of the 3 books I had left over from Bell Redemption December, Lot by Bryan Washington. This is a collection of short stories that I read bailed on in 2021. I'd bought it in 2020, and when I first bailed on it, I thought it was just, they were okay, but the connected story, every other story is connected. And I grew to get tired of that story. And on this Bell Redemption attempt, I feel that way still, but I thought the writing was adequate. The characters a bit, excuse me, one note, and just the whole, it was very limited. And I bailed on it again, so yeah. And I'm thinking I'm probably done with Bryan Washington. So after having bailed on Lot again, or rejecting Lot's Bell Redemption, I decided to return to Papyrus by Irene Vallejo. And I finished it. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I read the rest of the book and loved it. It was amazing. I loved it. So definitely this was a case of whatever happened last week was, dragging the book. But once I'd gotten clear of that and started reading this again, it was amazing. I loved it. There's so many good bits. Some of them are, or most of them are not necessarily in the past. There's a wonderful chapter on the dangers of bookselling. That's mostly about contemporary 20th century Spanish bookselling. There's other thing. It was amazing. So yeah, although I think I would classify this more as, I don't know necessarily how history or how much literary criticism I would put this in, but it was good. So yeah. But I don't really quite know what to make of it, because I love the book, but it is just so all over the place that I don't really know how to describe it adequately. So that leaves me with the upcoming reading week. So I have the weekend and 2 days before February starts. So I'm thinking of trying to get to 2 of my, or at least one of the 2 books I still have outstanding for my Bell Redemption December. I'm either going to have a go at a Bell Redemption attempt at, I should say, at either Guards of the Moon by Stephen Erikson. This is the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series that I've had for a few years now, and I had a go at it for the first time in 2017, and I didn't quite get on with it. So I would like to have another go at it, and I really need to, so I can decide whether or not I want to keep the books or send them on their way. And the other one I would like to get to is The Lesser Bohemians by Eimear McBride. This is a novel about a young student actress who gets involved with an older actor. I picked it up on the recommendation of Steve Donahue, and I didn't quite get into it. So anyway, maybe a third. I think this will be the third time I have to go at this book. So hopefully, depending which one of the two I decide to go for. Although it could very well end up being both. We shall see. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to start my February reading with Pharaohs of the Sun by Guy De La Bedoyere. Okay, let's try it again. Guy De La Bedoyere. This is a history of the 18th dynasty, the dynasty that founded the New Kingdom and reunited Egypt out of the Second Intermediate Period, and have some of the most famous pharaohs, including the Thutmosis, Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun. So I've been looking forward to getting to this book. I had it pre-ordered and it came the day it was released, and I've been wanting to get to it, and I'm finally going to get to it. So I'm quite happy for that. So that's my reading plans for next week. Although things can change. I might start Pharaohs of the Sun early if there's a double bail, or I might read some of the manga that I just hauled, or some of the poetry. You'll find out next week. But anyway, I'm needing to, well, before I wrap things up, I guess I ought to talk about next week. Since I just did my January book haul, I will be starting my 2023 library tour on Monday. So on Monday, I will start with the cookbooks and then go from there. I still need to figure out how I'm going to do the tour for the manga. That's going to be a challenge. And then also the boxes. But I'll figure that out as I go. And then on Monday evening, I guess I will do, well, no, because I'm going to film the cookbook video on Sunday, since it's in the living room, and I'll do that after my mom goes to bed. So I'll do that then, and then I'll do my original tag video on Monday, and then do basically the book tour in the afternoons, and tag videos and other videos during that evening period, or very late afternoon. And then, of course, weekly reads will be during the afternoons as well. And we'll do that until I finish the library tour, which should probably be about a month or two. Well, 2, 3, depending. So anyway, BookTube, that's all I've got for right now. So thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend. And I will see you on Monday with the start of my 2023 library tour. So until then, BookTube, thank you and stay safe.